Hello, Gene Schwimmer here. Welcome to today's vlog. Today I want to cover a subject that I've kind of touched on in the past, but I want to give it a fuller treatment today. The reason for bringing it up is, well, you must know by now, I'm sure everybody does, because I'm recording this on Friday. You're seeing it on Monday, so plenty of time to learn that Ruth Bader Ginsburg has been getting chemotherapy treatments for cancer since around the middle of May. We're just finding out now. I guess she's telling us now because instead of at the time, because she must have not wanted to cause any speculation at the time, and now I assume that the treatments are proving effective. On the other hand, she's 87 years old. This is not her first bout with cancer, but I guess the prognosis is pretty good. That's why she's sharing the info now. But she's also saying that she's still active, still able to fully do her job as a Supreme Court justice. Which brings me to the subject that I want to cover today because, well, to compliment Ruth Bader Ginsburg, even though, full disclosure, if you don't know by now, you must if you've been watching my vlogs, if this is your first time. I'm a conservative. I have a conservative point of view. I will be voting for Donald Trump in November, but specifically regarding Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I obviously do not agree with her on a whole lot. She does sometimes participate in unanimous decisions. She does sometimes render or participate in decisions that I support. So that's one point on her side of the ledger as far as I'm concerned. But I'm complimenting her this time because she is at least honest and forthright. She did hold back a little bit, maybe because the news was going to come out anyways, in which case I guess I could temper my compliment a little bit. But she admitted the health problem. She admitted having been in the hospital for chemotherapy, and I think that deserves noting and complimenting her on because, as you're going to see in a second, that has not always been the case. I want to, as part of the main theme I'm covering today, mention that, well, I guess liberals, as you'll see in a second, especially when it comes to presidents, they have, or specifically regarding presidents, because that's what I'll mostly be talking about today, but they have a habit of nominating and later electing unhealthy candidates, and when they become president, they cling to power. That's the part I want to really get to today. They cling to power to the point of hiding their condition. And we start with the first person, the first progressive, quote, progressive liberal president, Woodrow Wilson. He is the start of this progressive philosophy as far as putting that philosophy in the White House, but he had a stroke. He had a stroke when he was in the White House. He should have resigned. The vice president should have taken over, but instead his condition was hidden from the public. I have to assume that the press helped a little bit on that because, well, how can you keep it, even in those days, that was a long time ago, a century ago, but communication was modern enough at that time, technology, that the public should have known and would have known, I have to guess, unless the press deliberately buried his condition because he had a stroke. There are conflicting reports now. The common knowledge was that his wife, Edith, took over, became the virtual acting president. The scuttlebutt was that the orders actually came from her because Woodrow Wilson's condition was so bad by that time that she was functioning as the acting president, for all practical purposes, the unelected president. But I have recently read that that was not true, that she was acting on Wilson's orders, but that still doesn't change the main point that he should have resigned and his condition should have been known to the public, but it was hidden, which brings us to the next case, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR. He had, well, I'm not talking about his polio. His polio was hidden by the press. They did not, somebody had to have known outside the press, but it was not broadcast. It was not talked about or written about really in the press at that time. But that is okay because being a paraplegic does not affect your ability to do the job of President of the United States. In fact, we have one governor, Greg Abbott of Texas, who is also a paraplegic, and he is active and effective and doing a good job. I'm talking about later in life when his health was really declining, when he had extremely high blood pressure. You just have to look at some of the later photos. You can see him just wasting away. And at that time, well, he died at 62, which is one of these ironies because he's the architect of Social Security, which kicks in at 65. He died at 62. So he was the architect, the enactor of Social Security, but he personally never lived long enough to benefit from it. I guess he's kind of like Moses, who brought the Israelites, my ancestors, to the promised land, but was not allowed to enter himself. The hiding of FDR's condition is what I want to get to, is that the press colluded with, I know no other word for it, colluded, worked with FDR, with the White House, to hide his condition as much as possible in order to keep him in office. And that brings us right up to, well, you probably guessed by now, Joe Biden. He is obviously in deteriorating health. At least, well, you can see he's kind of frail, but also his mind. He stumbles all the time. He can only give these talks from the basement of his house, and he screws that up a lot of the time. He is constantly, they call them gaffes. They are not gaffes. They are just somebody suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's, their memory failing, losing their train of thought, and not being able often to make coherent statements. That is his condition. It is obvious, and the press is not reporting it. Remember, I've talked about this in the past. Trump, what we see that we know about Biden, this was an accusation made against Trump, and he took a test, the Montreal cognitive test, to demonstrate that his mental faculties are fine, and he aced the test. He got 100%. He took the test and he publicized the results. Biden said that he's been tested constantly on his intellect, on his mental function, and that he's always done well, but he's never named the test. He has never publicized any results, nor has anyone who ostensibly gave him these tests, these multiple tests, publicized the results or even publicized that they gave the tests, which makes me really doubt that he has had any tests like this. If he had, I would have to think it would have to come out, but maybe not, because the press, as we've seen with definitely FDR and possibly with Wilson, the Democratic press, which is most of the press, they hide it. They cover up his condition. They are definitely doing that for Biden. They are covering up his condition. So just as an aside, that makes his vice presidential pick very, very important, more than usual, because that person very likely will become the president. And it will also, as I've said in the past, it could prove to be an occasion when we actually would have to employ the 25th Amendment. But Something else you can employ right now, all of you, is employ your thumbs to give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Share it with anybody you think would also like the video. If you have comments, there's a comment section below the video where you can also put questions, suggestions for future topics. I love getting subscribers, so subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. And it's not just me. YouTube loves me getting subscribers too. So it's a twofer. You'll be helping both of us. But most of all, come back and see me again. I look forward to seeing all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.